Hi everyone, so I'm Brian from Direct Action Everywhere, and here today I'm going to introduce DxE's model for social change: create, connect, inspire. I'm going to talk about how DxE uses two often overlooked tools, community building and provocation, to overcome some of the most pressing problems that hinder effective and sustainable animal advocacy. But first, I want to introduce you to someone who you may know very well. So, who here has been the lonely vegan? Wow, so pretty much everyone. So I've been the lonely vegan, and I think we can all say that being the lonely vegan really sucks, for a few reasons. The first is that, of course, you're lonely. You have no community to support you. The second is that you're afraid to speak up because you don't have any community to support you, and in fact, that community is often very much pitched against you. And last, perhaps most unfortunate, there's a very large chance, in fact, approximately 75%, that you'll quit veganism altogether. The recidivism rates for veganism are awful. So we can see that this lonely vegan problem is a huge problem within animal advocacy. But first we should ask, why is it happening in the first place? Yale sociologist Christakis has the answer. His research, in short, finds that community is the key determining factor in people keeping or changing their behaviors or beliefs. So let's take an example from some of his research: smoking. Christakis found that large advertisements, or some of the grotesque images that you might see on these cigarette cartons, right, the cancerous, tar-filled lungs, actually are not very effective at changing people's opinions on whether or not they want to continue smoking. What he did find, however, was that close family connections, family and friends, had extraordinarily high impact rates. So he found, for example, that if you had a friend who was very vocal about quitting smoking, your chances of doing the same would increase by 20%. Christakis has found the same for all other sorts of phenomena, from obesity to self-reported happiness. And the central finding is that community matters more than anything else. So this leaves a huge gap in the standard model of animal rights advocacy, which is typically large-scale but shallow outreach. So, for example, mass leafleting. So handing out as many leaflets as you can to maximize the number of vegans that you create, but not necessarily connecting one-on-one. Another example is promoting, animal cruelty videos on the internet, but not necessarily trying to get those people after they watch the video to engage in some way with your group or your community. So these efforts are great at kind of initially motivating people to change their beliefs or behavior, but after that, you often get disappointing results. You get energetic vegans who stop showing up to your events or protests. You see people who stop speaking about the issue to family and friends. And worst of all, sometimes you get the occasional ex-vegan. So DxE, the group that I work with, has taken these lessons to heart. And we've launched community engagement programs called DxE Meetups and DxE Connections to implement the findings from successful social justice movements and social science research. So with DxE Meetups, we have weekly Saturday morning meetings in Oakland with coffee, vegan donuts, team building exercises, and communal activities like protests and potlucks. This builds a strong and loving network of animal rights activists in the Bay Area and allows previously lonely vegans like you or myself to come together and form a strong community. With DxE Connections, we build peer-to-peer engagement by connecting triplets of activists in our network. We have them meet once every month and just show support for each other and chat. This creates the strong community bonds that influence the change in mental institutions that Christakis talks so much about. And after implementing these programs, we found extraordinary success. So we found lower recidivism rates, with people sticking around our events a lot more, and older activists who have quit coming to some of our programs have started to come back. And most notably, we found that we've had much higher attendance at demonstrations and events. So we're regularly getting like 50 to 60 people at our demonstrations now, and in some cases, including in January, which is pictured here, we had 150 plus. And our community space regularly is entirely full during some of our more formal meetings. So now that I've talked about community, I want to briefly discuss another problem facing animal rights activists, perhaps the most insidious problem standing in the way of any social movement. And that's apathy. So in the animal rights movement, we do face a problem of ignorance. A lot of people just don't know what's going on with animals suffering in animal farms. But in a large part, the problem we seek to overcome is also apathy. Both people outside of the movement don't care about animals, but even within the movement, it's so difficult to get vegans and vegetarians who care about animals to do more, to start doing outreach or to start doing activism, right? So the good news is that in social science and social justice, this is a solved problem. The solution is provocation and protest. So we're often told to play nice and not be the angry vegan. But historically, provocation and protest have been extremely powerful tools for social justice. In fact, Sidney Tarrow, who's a political scientist at Cornell, has called disruption the quote-unquote strongest weapon for social movements. So why does he say this? First is that it provides evidence of determination. It shows that you and other activists care about this issue. Second is it obstructs routine and forces attention. So, many of the routines that we daily engage with, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, involve routine violence against animals. So it's very important to draw attention to those normal, everyday evils and call attention to the fact that animals are suffering as a result. And finally, it broadens the circle of debate so that animal rights becomes an issue of discussion not just within the animal rights bubble, but within the public at large. So we've had extraordinary success with this as well in our flagship campaign, It's Not Food, It's Violence, which goes inside of restaurants and grocery stores, and with a very simple message that animal flesh, meat, eggs, and dairy are not food, but products of horrible violence against animals. So in this campaign, we've generated enormous public dialogue with 100+ press outlets in just the last year, including the New York Times, Mother Jones, CNN, and Fox News. And most importantly, with the movement, we've inspired vegans to become activists, and we've empowered activists to further empower other activists, creating a positive feedback loop of change that has now spread to 110 cities in 20 different countries around the world. So to recap, social dispersion and apathy are insidious problems in the animal rights movement. They lead to a wide variety of failures, including vegan recidivism, weak messaging, and installed movement growth. But we can overcome these and turn them in our favor with a simple formula for social change. Create, connect, inspire. Create activists, not just passive sympathizers or lonely vegans. Then connect those activists in empowered communities. And finally, inspire those activists to take collective action, provoke public dialogue, and create more activists in the last chain of a positive feedback loop for change. So what I want to end with is that you are part of that chain. We've had extraordinary success building community and utilizing provocation at DxE, but these tactics have only reached a fraction of who we'd like them to. So please, if you can, I'd love you to take part and witness these things in person. You can talk to me about this. You can reach out to any of the folks who are involved in DxE. If you can, raise your hand if you're involved in DxE, just so people can know. Reach out to them. But most importantly, implement them into your personal life. Have a difficult conversation with your stubborn friend who still eats animals. Reach out to the lonely vegan and form a dynamic duo. And finally, inspire others to do the same, because the animals need it more than ever. All right? Thank you.